Hey, YouTube Internet. A few thoughts. A few thoughts for people that are really serious about trying to unravel our circumstances at this time. Who are we? Who are we as people? What is it that matters? And I was thinking, and this is aside from my TNT monologues, this is not part of the TNT monologues on consciousness and the uncertainty that gives us meaning, the uncertainty, not knowing, not being, not creating a state of enormous anxiety that we don't know something, that we're like subject to a higher power, and it doesn't unnerve us, and we have to create elaborate systems of laws and regulations through religious concepts and all this kind of thing. Anyway, today I was thinking about the fact that how much more is it that we need to know? How much more can we absorb before we kind of like cumulatively realize we're in a really nasty state. We're like all the stuff, what are called truthers, all the truthers out there presenting us with the facts, all the facts that's out there. So how much more is there left to expose? How much more can we actually absorb before there is some kind of a change? And I'm not thinking in terms of the world out there, but just for ourselves. Like if, for example, you think about the Harvey Weinstein guy who is rampaging through the china shop of all these women actors who are subjugated to his sexual desires and whims, and then it comes out and yeah, you know, people are like up in arms, the Me Too types and all this stuff. Yes, these are all what we feel like. These are progressive steps in some way that will resolve something. But I'm going to say now, it's going to resolve zero, nothing. The old boss that is being punished and pummeled will be replaced by a new boss that is going to initiate the next millennium of ignorance and subjugation and the problems that we face. I'm talking about hardcore humanity that I have a great amount of faith in. I have faith in humanity. I'm thinking today, what is this whole thing that gives us a sense of satisfaction of knowing how miserable things are? This is like obviously, if I'm focused, for example, on the information that's out there that apprises me to all the misdeeds that are going on, I'm going to be quite, I suppose, animated about understanding the situation we're in. But I've asked many times on this channel, when I do my dissertations, what's the point? What's the point of knowing how bad things are? We all know how bad things are. And if we start with the jewel in the crown, as I always say, the nuclear poison that is being perpetrated against all of humanity, and it trickles down after that. I believe it trickles down. There are major issues we face, but it's a trickle-down effect after this phenomenon. That if you consider a technology that has fundamentally taken over all of biology on this planet, and it can't be shut off, meaning taken over the biology, the destruction of life on Earth as we understand it over a period of time, being cumulative. All this poison that is being released is cumulative. It doesn't happen today and you fall over. No, it's like you see it in the rise of cancers and all the other diseases that are so prevalent now, and a medical system that is so overwhelmed by the state of toxicity that is in bodies. Now, I'm going to attempt again, like in my TNT monologue, about context. Context can actually verify truth, as I attempted in my TNT monologue on context to explain that truth is a moving target, and the idea that we actually have access to something that would change us is not truth. is not truth, but is to feel a circumstance in a very substantive way for ourselves. Like if you hurt yourself, if like you bang your finger with a hammer, you know you've been damaged, and you react accordingly. You scream, you shout. So how is this reality that we're being exposed to in terms of all the truth really having an impact like a hammer hitting your finger? Just think about it. How do you relate the reality that we face? And I'm speaking now not to the people who just kind of go on keeping on and whatever it takes to survive every day. I'm not talking about that type of a person. I'm talking about people who think, who reflect, who have an insight even, who have an understanding about how the world works. What is it that makes the difference to a person that understands all the circumstances that we face on a level of, let's say, on a DEFCON 1 level, where you're feeling like it could just sort of go off the abyss any day? What does it matter? You see, you're going to hit your hammer, you're going to hit your finger with a hammer, and it's going to mean a lot more than understanding that the nuclear monster breathing down our necks, or the misdeeds and the dysfunction in our society, has really no impact on us. This has been something that's really bothered me. This is something that's really bothered me. This is why I keep coming back and making my YouTube videos. It's something that really bothers me, that this apparent understanding has absolutely no effect in the general scheme of things. Again, a friend came by yesterday and saying to me, you know, things are really ratcheting up and they're going to change incredibly. There are arrests. What arrests? What jail terms? Who are these people thrown? Who are these people that are being arrested? And I said to him, if I see Guantanamo Bay being shut down, I think that'll be a good sign that something has changed. Remember our boy Donald, the village idiot, who is supposedly the one that is going to lock them all up. Well, oh yeah, it takes a lot of time. No, it doesn't take a lot of time. Donald, get on the phone. All these indictments that are supposedly out there in the system, you go and talk to the people that are under your wing, that are being appointed by you, the prosecutors, whoever they are, and get them to get their ass into gear and throw these people in jail. Get them off the streets. Get the Harvey Weinsteins out of the system. Now, I also think that the Weinstein types are like just tip of the iceberg kind of sacrificial lambs. Yes, they're nasty bastards, but these are just sacrificial lambs that are being fed to us. Now, here's my point today. Here's my point. What really disturbs me is that this entire truth community on YouTube, with all the understanding and insights that you might have, it's basically contributing to an acclimatizing of this knowledge. This is something that is very essential for what I understand to be the control group. This kind of suprastructure around us that is understood to be culture or civilization. Things we attach a great deal of importance to, that, oh, we can't give up on culture because it's so magnificent. It creates levels of euphoria within us that we've accomplished such amazing deeds. We listen to the Bach cello concertos, or we put on some fabulous piece of culture for ourselves, and we feel elevated. But what's the point? What does this elevation lead to? What is this exaltation within each of us lead to? And I see no evidence that the understanding and knowledge of how serious things are makes any difference in the big scheme of things. And when I say makes no difference, is how am I changed? How do I change as a person in order to become part of a solution? And I don't see it. Honestly, I don't see it. And, you know, I suppose, you know, I shouldn't rant too much. Like I said, I don't want to cast dispersions on anyone. We know that bastards are out there. And in terms of the people that I feel are on my side, that are even listening to this, who are out there exposing all these, the facts of our situation, I'm saying Why isn't it making any difference? It really isn't. I don't see it. I don't see it. And I said to my friend, honestly, I don't see it. No matter how much you attach yourself to the idea that things are out there moving and shaking and going in the right direction. No, they're not. And I have to come back. It's like, I have to come back to the notion that ultimately there is no change in the big picture until there is a change in the microcosm, the small picture, each individual person internalizing something that is actually of significance and meaning. It's like if you're reading a fabulous piece of literature, let's say if you read Vonnegut, The Cat's Cradle, and something begins to make sense, you begin to internalize the ruminations, these idiosyncratic kind of weird, well, Vonnegut had this ability to entertain while upsetting. It was like, it's a beautiful aspect in Vonnegut, I feel. There is an entertainment side to him that actually is very disturbing and upsetting. So at the end of it, you walk away from it and you scratch your head and you feel a little bit unnerved by the whole thing. And ultimately, that, I believe, the best part of culture, that begins to filter through. That's what I think how it works. So this is just a brief video. I'm thinking about this and I keep coming back to this. That what is it that really matters? It's not the facts, ma'am. It's not having everything at our disposal, what we understand. You go to Google and Wikipedia, and this guy now, who I have to say, I admire and like this guy, Quantum of Conscience, Matt. He's written a book. He's written a book and he's reading it and he's doing all the right things. And he is still, I left a comment. I said, look, I'm not going to comment anymore. He never replied to me. So I just left a comment. I said, I'm not going to comment on your channel anymore because all you're doing is regurgitating all the mantras of conformity, all the truth that we already know. What is it that's going to make us change? What is it that's going to make us change? And what I've said and what I stand by is that our own individual conscience is it's the only thing that stands between us and complete and utter destruction. That's how it works. It's not all the brilliant knowledge you have, and you're up to date on all the latest and the oldest literature from Dante to whoever you want to have, Harold Bloom, and all the insights that you want to get. It's not going to make any difference. It's not going to make any difference. We're faced with what is that? We are faced with an existential decision on a very personal level. Is this whole thing, whatever this mystery that we're part of, going to unfold in a way that actually, this might be a Tertulia, the TNT monologue, is going to serve this notion of conscience as an overarching kind of reality that we are a part of in some way. Is it going to serve, or is it going to take us in a direction that is quite difficult? And I don't know, is it possible for there to be a complete and total annihilation? I suspect there is. I suspect there is, in terms of what we understand to be life as we experience it, especially if all the toxic elements that are being unleashed by design, I find that this nuclear criminal syndicate who runs the show, who probably runs the chemtrails as well, all this and nothing. I've written letters to my environmental minister and to people like Don McDonald guy that does a CBC program that talks about science, and Dan McDonald, no, whatever his name is on CBC, Quirks and Quarks. I've multiple times asked him to address this question of chemtrails, just as an explanation. Just give us an explanation, and then fine. If you say it's perfectly all right, go ahead, do whatever you're doing, but give us an explanation. No, there's no result. So what we're faced with is we have no real effect unless we change our own lives in our own circumstance, and this begins to filter out. Honestly, if you can tell me another way of going about having an influence that's positive, that's going to create an environment, a feeling within us that we are a part of something that we want to continue within. Right now, my sense is the general population, for the most part, doesn't care because they're too preoccupied with all the things that have been implanted in our brains from the bosses that have existed for millennia. I'm saying, can we step out of this and actually have a change within ourselves on a level that will just infiltrate and become part of like a conversation. That'll be like I'm having a pub talk, and I'm saying, hey, I had this incredible realization about myself. I've been doing a certain thing that has been so destructive to me, or, you know, I didn't need a therapist. I didn't have to lie down. I just invoked this understanding within me because I realized that something was wrong. Oh, something was wrong. So we're involved in an activity or a feeling or something that doesn't feel right. And I admit to myself, hey, it doesn't feel right. Something is wrong here. I don't need some high paid psychologist, psychiatrist to tell me something is wrong here, because I have that feeling within me myself. I don't rely on anyone else other than myself to give me that answer. So how much more is it that we need? How much more of the facts do we need about the miscreants and the misdeeds and all the things that are going on around us out there? What is really essential is to get to grips. Forget about the world out there. Get to grips with what is happening within us every day. And this is going to make the change that we're looking for. So all the other stuff is just propagated. It is creating consensus, acclimatizing us to the misdeeds so it can continue for the next millennium. Unfortunately, I don't, because the nuclear, as far as I understand, my knowledge of this is you can't shut it off. We've turned it on and we can just contain it for the next few 100,000 years or whatever. I don't know. Maybe someone will come and neutralize this toxicity. But once you turn the nuclear monster off, you can't turn it on. You can't turn it off. And coal, all you coal people out there, give me coal any day because you can turn it off. Take the switch, turn it off, it's finished. Nuclear doesn't work that way. That's just the way I'm understanding the world out there. But more importantly, it's the world in there that makes all the difference.